All right.
Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Why am I not in the intro? I gotta come up with a snappy line.
What's up, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld Podcast. We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion each and every week. And this week on the show, we are still reeling from the newest episode of The Acolyte, and we'll be sharing our thoughts on Night and more. And as always, we'll be answering your questions at the end of the show. Let's get right to it. My name is Chris, and joining me is my good friend, Mr. Dominic Jones.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Ben. Hello, Hannah. Hello, everyone. Yeah, we got a great, really a head scratcher of an episode last week. And I'm really excited to dive into this episode 5, with had lots of great, lightsaber action. A big switch up. Also, I got to say, now that the Stanley Cup Finals are over, everyone is just as disappointing as the Leafs. So I'm just gonna enjoy the moment while it lasts.
Matthew, you do a really great Dom impression. You do such.
I think that's Dom doing a Matthew impression. Actually,
Yeah,
maybe.
What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about.
Pretty sure Matthew's just down on the beach eating fried chicken or something.
This is
Yeah.
One of them High Republic books you go.
Look, I know you have the same room. This is not. What? What are you talking about?
I don't tell you, Hannah.
All right. Let's ask Ben. Ben has been podcasting.
Dominic, could you tell Matthew to get on with Temptation before we got books to read? And
Ben has been podcasting with Dom for like 20 years. Like, he would know if that was Dom or not.
Yeah, I mean, that's Dom. What are you talking about? What's
Yeah.
I don't.
No, I'm not accepting this. I am not accepting this, Matthew.
What's got into her all of a sudden? I don't understand.
What? Matthew, identity theft is a joke, is a crime against humanity. Millions of people every year.
There we go. I cracked that. I had to crack it. This thing is too dang hot, too.
How dare you?
Same.
I know you're not dumb.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my goodness. No. Dom is not here. However, he still might be making a bit of an appearance later, in a way. So stay tuned for that. But we have a fantastic replacement. In fact, Dom, as usual, takes 2 people to fill those shoes. So we have 2 fantastic guests. First up, we've got Matthew from Eye On Canon.
How's it going? Me for real this time? Yeah, seriously. After a head scratcher of episode 4, looking forward to diving into episode 5. Yeah, a lot of interesting questions similar to episode 3. I found so glad to be on the flagship chatting away about about episode 5 Night. And yes, Hannah, you're right. Identity theft is a serious crime. Good thing I didn't do it.
I love it. Also joining us, also from Eye On Canon, it's Mr. Joel.
Hello, everyone. I had my mic on mute because there's trucks and stuff going by, and I don't know why my apartment decided to have construction all of a sudden. But hello, glad to be here. Hi. And Matthew, we don't forget those books. We gotta get on to these.
I'm on it. I'm telling you. I finished Defy the Storm. I'm on to Temptations of the Force.
We gotta do Living Force too, right?
Anyway.
Yes, I'm kidding, but glad to be on.
And then also joining us from the Hannah side, it's Ray.
I'm muted. G'day there! Great to be back for another week of banter and mischievousness, if that's a word. Can't wait to get into this episode. We are finally taken off in this show for me personally, so I'm very excited for it. Let's go.
I definitely think that we've managed some mischief for sure. And finally, also joining us, it's Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
Oh, as if you didn't notice. Yes. Hi, I'm here.
To officially just go through the ceremony of the introductions and round it out. So we're going to be getting to talking about the Red Wedding, night, and very, very, very soon. But we got a few things to plug super quick. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you punch that subscribe button, Chewy. You can super chat with us if you're watching us live. Either way, you can become a channel member and support us that way. Make sure you also subscribe and review if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast app. We got a Discord. You can join the SWU Network Discord. We got the link in the description, in the show notes. Check it out. Lots of great stuff over there. Game nights and watch parties. Joel, what's the next thing that's happening on the Discord?
The next thing is, well, not this week because we don't do things this week, but maybe next week we'll do a game night.
Nice. Maybe next week there will be a game night if you maybe click the link in the description. So check it out. It'll be really fantastic. And as always, last but not least, follow us on Threads at the SWU. And we should also mention the one show that's not represented right now, which is Tales from Beyond the Galaxy. Check that show out as well. Check out all the shows that all these lovely people aren't as well. Alrighty, so let's get into it. Let's talk about this latest episode of The Acolyte entitled Night, which after much speculation about the title of the last episode, the last episode does indeed make a lot of sense being titled Day.
Right.
So this episode in particular was written by Cameron Squires and Cor Adana and directed by Alex Garcia Lopez. And we are going to start off with the thoughts of the real Dominic Jones.
Well, hello, everybody, and special shout out to all of my fellow Basil buddies. I am so sorry I could not be there for this episode, especially since it is such a momentous, exciting, huge episode of The Acolyte. Dare I say it, it's the first truly shocking episode of Star Wars television. We've had great episodes. We've had twists. We've had surprises. We've had tragic episodes, but never one that brings them all together the way this episode did, in a way that feels like you're watching one of those great prestige dramas where anything can happen to any character. We're talking Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, shows like that. This episode had that feel because, not one, but two main characters offed within a couple of minutes of each other. One was surprising enough to get both of them. Truly, truly shocking. I will say the episode did start off on a little bit of shaky ground for me, sort of picking up where last week left off, where I was feeling a little bit unsure about how the story was being told, how things were being executed. But I'll tell you, from the moment Jecki Leckie comes out of nowhere and takes down May, from that moment on, flawless. Terrific acting, terrific shot direction, terrific action, just amazing, amazing stuff. Really great performances, really great filmmaking all around by all involved. Made for a really exciting and, like I said, kind of heartbreaking and shocking episode of the series. The sort of the big thing to take away from all this is, of course, the reveal. Kamir is behind the Darth Smiley helmet. We speculated a lot about this, so it wasn't a huge surprise that it happened. It was more like, okay, yeah, that is what's happening. But I will say they threw out enough little breadcrumbs in the episode to maybe try and get you off the scent, so it was still effective when it happened. And boy, oh boy, Manny Jacinto, what a performance. I continue to be in awe of this guy. Like I said, I loved him for years on The Good Place, and to now see him playing such a different character, so different. I never thought I'd see Dark Lord of the Sith Jason Mendoza, but to see him excelling in that role, it shouldn't be a surprise. He is that talented, but he was so good. He was so intimidating. He was creepy and kind of scary, but also he still maintained just a little bit of that sort of lighthearted humor to him. Really, really good stuff from him. Really excited to see where that goes next. Jecki and Yord, man, two great characters, two characters that really, captured the audience's imagination, and to kill them both off in the same episode within minutes, it's a bold choice. It's a bold call from Leslie Headland. I think it explains why, those two were so prominent so early, because they knew, they only would have Charlie Bennett and Daphne Keane involved in this show for a real short window, real limited window. But they made the most of it. I'll tell you. There's those stickers, you can kind of see them behind me if you're watching in the video. The Yord Horde and the Jecki Jam. Whoa. My heart goes out to you. Basil buddies, we're with you. Soul, really, really good stuff from him in this episode, continuing to suggest he maybe isn't quite as blameless in what went down with May's past. That'll be real interesting. And I have to say, Amantla Stenberg, really, really great performance in this episode as well. That moment at the end when she's, when May is now dressing as Osha, and she first enters the scene to go to Soul when he's down. You could just see it in Amantla's walk. Like she was still May, even though she was dressed as Osha. It was really, really, really good stuff. Fascinating to see now that May is with Soul and Osha is with Kamir. We'll have to see how this is going to play out. I'm curious to see what this brings, how this changes the dynamic. And something else I've noticed, like slowly but surely, we're losing all of our Jedi characters, right? You look at that cast list, you look at those pictures from Celebration. Who's left? Who's left? Lee Jung-jae, Amantla Stenberg, Manny Jacinto, Rebecca Henderson, I guess, kind of still in there as Vernestra. But, most of those other characters they're dead in the present, right? We'll still see some of them in flashbacks at Dean Charles Chapman, Carrie-Anne Moss. I'm sure we'll see more from them, as well as Jodie Turner-Smith. But, they're not around in the present anymore, which is interesting. And, a second season hasn't yet been confirmed, although I think it'd be a huge missed opportunity at this point not to do it. But, I kind of wonder if we do get a second season of this show, how different will it look? Maybe by that point, the Jedi will kind of be removed from the story. If you go back to some of those original pitches for the show, from the original announcements for the show, they made it sound like it was much more Sith heavy, much more dark side heavy. And not that hasn't been a major part of the series, but most of the main characters up until this point have been Jedi or Jedi adjacent characters. So maybe we're kind of clearing the board of the Jedi so that if we get a season 2, which seems pretty likely at this point, but if we get that second season, maybe we'll sort of slide more into it being truly a Sith show. Yeah, what an episode. What an episode. I'm really curious to see where it goes. I feel like we've seen almost everything from the trailers. There's a couple of shots in there involving a light whip that we haven't seen yet, so that's probably coming up. But good stuff. Where are we at now? 4 episodes, so 3 episodes to go. 3 episodes to go. Wow. And of course, the best part, the one who's going to save the day. It's our buddy. It's Basil. Perfect timing for Basil buddies, I tell you. Really, really strong episode. I guess I'd give it sort of like I want to give it a 10 out of 10, but the opening of the episode was, like I said, was still a little bit shaky for me. So I'll go 9.5. A 9.5 from me for this one. But man, I can't wait to see where it goes and to see what comes next in this story. So that'll be it for me. Enjoy the rest of the show. If everything goes according to plan, we'll be back next week. And hopefully we'll have another great episode of The Acolyte to discuss that. All right. Thanks for giving me a couple minutes. Enjoy the rest of the show. May the Force be with you. It's a wrap for me.
Well, Dom, I disagree on so many. Oh wait, he's not here. Oh.
And this is where we all rip his video to shreds.
Who am I meant to roast? Who am I meant to bully now? Damn it!
Oh, no, this is not the roast of Dominic Jones yet. It will happen.
yes. End of year.
The roast master will walk in. No, thanks.
Hit him while he can't defend himself. Go!
Oh my god.
No, here, guys.
Thanks for your thoughts, Dom. We appreciate it, and we look forward to having you on the show again live next week to continue talking about the Acolyte. For now, let's turn it over to our guests first, our amazing guest co-hosts, to talk about. First, I'm going to ask you guys what you've thought of the show so far and the first 4 episodes, just as a brief summary before we get into this current one. So, Matthew, I'll go with you first. How do you think this show has landed with its first initial episodes?
It's been mostly up. Again, like really, episode 4, I agree with Dom, was a bit of a head scratcher. What's happening? But I mean, episodes 2 and 3 are special moments, and I'm going to say this about episode 3 especially. I'm going to pick that up later on. Actually, I have some thoughts there. Awesome. But yeah, episode 3 was a special moment given how it refused to give any kind of real solid perspective. And this show overall, again, I'll preface what I'm going to say later, is that the show is whatever you need it to be. Do you need the Jedi to be this evil institution? Do you need the Jedi to be this evil institution because you need something to rail against? I don't know. I'll go into more detail later. But do you need the Sith to be the good guys in this story? Do you need them to be the villains? Do you need some weird, complicated mix in between? That's the more important question than what is the show actually saying. That might come later. As a High Republic fan, and this is where we lead into this when we do it on our show, was people's relationship to the High Republic. It really, really nails the look and the feel and the concerns, especially with all the Jedi characters so far of what the High Republic has been about. Has it been about seeing the Jedi struggle to be the heroes, but sometimes fall flat and sometimes wrestle with how they can't always pull it together. And at least seeing, having Dom's thoughts in my head, seeing where this might go in a similar direction. It's really landed. It's felt like a High Republic story on the live screen, on the big screen, or on live action rather. And I'm really along for the ride. I love the depth and the seriousness. I loved Jecki and Yord as characters, especially Yord. I'm definitely still Yord for life. So it's awesome. It's hard to say if it's going to be one of my favorites still, but it's up there. It's a special moment in Star Wars for me.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And Joel, what are your thoughts on the first several episodes of the show that you weren't here to review with us?
Sorry about the noise outside. I don't know why.
No worries.
We decided to start construction all of a sudden around my neighborhood. That's just great. No, I've enjoyed it for the most part. I mean, I get some of the critiques of this probably should have been a movie, but I think every Disney Plus show, probably except the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian and Andor, should have been a movie. But they fixed that problem. That's why we're going back to movies at this point. I really enjoyed it. Seeing the High Republic, that's been really cool. This is definitely a show that's riddled in prequel nostalgia this time around. You can definitely tell about that. If Star Wars is always nostalgic, this time prequel nostalgia went out this time. I really enjoyed the characters and whatnot. I'm really interested in seeing where they go. I have my own theories. I've just enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun.
Amazing. And we'll circle back to get your thoughts on the current episode in a second, but let's go to our hosts and get their opening thoughts first. Starting with you, Hannah, what are your opening thoughts, initial impressions of Night?
Yeah, I think this episode is really simply what I wanted and hoped for this show. I think a lot of combat heavy scenes, and the emphasis on that is what I've been hoping would happen, and it's happened in this episode. I thought it was so well done. It was so well executed, this episode. It couldn't... There's very little I can critique about this episode, because I think the flow of the combat what the combat meant as well, and the particular matchings of who was versing who, I think was important, and that was interesting. And the word I have for this episode that keeps coming to mind, it was so kinetic in the way it flowed, and the combat, the conflict to the dialogue is very kinetic. The way it was just all mixing together, who versing who, switching scenes, these persons, and then they break up, and then they start fighting each other. I think it was just so entertaining, so entertaining. And really a fantastic piece of Star Wars media. I really, really love this episode. I mean, from what we've been discussing over the past 4 weeks of this show so far, there's been lots of debating how good is this thing, this concept, and it's been a bit up and down for me. But this episode, there's so little to fault for me. I loved it. It was really good, really, really good.
Yes. And Ben, let's get your opening thoughts.
Yeah, so I think my opening thoughts are just like, I don't know what to say. I genuinely I'm still flabbergasted about this episode. And I want to gush over. I want to say everything that everyone else has been saying, that it's some of the best Star Wars I've seen on screen, some of the best lightsaber choreography, some of the best action, some of the best acting, and emotional moments. I think my best first reaction is just the description of how I watched this episode, which was I turned it on, I was sitting on my couch, and then 2 minutes into it, I decided I had to sit on the floor 2 feet from the screen in order to take it all in, because the thing is it's so stressful. It was so stressful going into this episode, and reason enough. See what happened. It was a lot of bad stuff happened, and it's amazing. We are now with the furthermost, earliest in the timeline we've ever seen in Star Wars in live action, and yet the stakes have never been bigger. And I think this is just a testament to I love nostalgia. I love obviously all the characters we've seen before, but this is the best example of bring in new characters, bring in new stuff, because we didn't know where anyone was going to go after this. We didn't know what was going to happen. Everyone was on the table. I was terrified for Soul. I was terrified for everyone, and I had reason to be. And it's just amazing. This is one of the most. I mean, talk about I remember having those discussions about Revenge of the Sith back in the day, and being oh, you can't show your kids Revenge of the Sith, it's PG-13, it's the only Star Wars show that's PG-13. This is an episode that I'm this may not be for kids, y'all. This is really messed up. It's real messed up Star Wars. It's great, but it's messed up, and it's just an incredible piece of thing and a great culmination of the last few episodes. And I get why anyone, I think unfortunately the discourse has been either you love it or you despise it, or they're nah. There's a lot of people in the middle. I think kind of identify more with the middle up until this point of just I've liked some of the episodes. I wasn't a huge fan of some of the other episodes, but this episode is incredible, nothing short of incredible, and a great culmination of everything we've seen before that I appreciate. I think ultimately we need to learn patience. If you're 2 or even 3 episodes into a show, or even 4 episodes, maybe wait a little bit and just see where it goes out, because none of this would have this is the first episode you see. You don't care about Jackie, you don't care about Yor, you don't care about any of them. The fact that we spent 4 episodes with these characters means it's freaking gut-wrenching when things. And I'm not just talking about Yord Horde. No, I liked Yord. I liked him as a character, and he's freaking dead. And I'm not happy about it.
Yeah, it's very, very, very good points there. Matthew, what were your initial impressions upon watching this episode?
I mean, so first of all, when we talk about patience, I will say even more confirmed that we should have gotten this episode last week as well, because episode 4 didn't really stand on its own. Episode 5, bringing it together, seeing this complete story on this planet. Yeah, really, like you guys have all said, the lightsaber action, especially, Hannah, picking up your comment, what that meant, and the way that thing about action, of course, is the way a different character fights, is how their character, their age, their physical capability well, also it says something about who they are, and Jackie's playfulness and athleticism, for example, comes to mind. I will say, I mean, I'm one for ideas. I'm one more for conversations. So an action heavy episode isn't gonna it isn't going to be the 10 out of 10 for me, but for an action heavy episode that did have lots of dialogue and idea moments later on, it definitely it really hit well. And so yeah, I mean, I'll say more later, but just enjoying. I mean, even the way the ideas came through in the action, for example, when Chimera breaks May's chains, that's the Sith code right there. That moment, bring the showing, not telling. I do also appreciate that. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. It did. I mean, episode 3 again is still the top for me, but this one, yeah, really pushes the story forward, and that's probably what we're all feeling, what we're all latching onto is, oh, finally we have a series, we have a real full head of steam for what this show is about. So enjoyed that part.
Amazing. And finally, to you, Joel, what were your initial impressions of Night?
Oh yeah, that's what this episode got dark.
Yes.
I agree. I mean, I'll just say, go further. It's like, why wasn't last episode just 50, 60 minutes? I don't get the pacing of these Disney Plus shows sometimes. Like, I don't get the enforced mandates of the time. I mean, Netflix has like Stranger Things episodes that are 2 hours. I don't get it. Whatever. It's weird. I can see why they're going back to movies. But yeah, this episode was dark, and I'm a little shocked. I mean, I said this is the Red Wedding of Star Wars. It's like, oh, it's like, dang, Jackie and Yord are dead. It's like, I thought they were going to be main characters who would, like, if this was a multi-season show, have like arcs and stuff. Like, nope, we're getting rid of them. They're dead. A little saddened by that. It's like, ooh, we spent so much time with them, and now they're just literally in Yord's case. Chimera being the Sith Lord, we all called it, but I was talking to some friends, and they brought up an interesting point that, honestly, it's sometimes better to have a mystery that you can solve and that it's the answer compared to one that you're just constantly speculating and you don't get an answer. It's like, I feel like more satisfying. It's like, you know what? Yeah, we called it, but at least it was answered and we got it, instead of like, maybe, and then never, like, it was the friends we made along the way answer. The lightsaber action was phenomenal. Some of the most brutal stuff ever. Cortosis helmet. Yeah. Gotta give props to the Cortosis helmet. I feel like May and Osha switching is not going to be just a physical thing. I think we're heading towards a spiritual switch as well for our twins, and it's not going to look pretty by the end, I feel, but we can get into that some other time. But yeah, overall, yeah, I hope the next, 5, 6, 7, 8. But wait, this was 6, 7, 8. 3 episodes are just as epic, and we're moving the steam ahead now, full steam ahead with the back half of the Acolyte.
Indeed. Yeah, no, I echo a lot of what y'all have said. I mean, starting with you, Hannah, mentioning the editing and the pacing of this episode, it was really fantastic. This episode was directed by Alex Garcia Lopez. I'm sure that was a strong influence on it. He has directed episodes of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which I think is a very well paced show. He's also directed episodes of Daredevil, another really popular, highly rated show. Luke Cage, Fear the Walking Dead. He's got a pretty great resume for episodic television and stuff on streaming services. So I think you could definitely feel that input into it and that uniqueness of the style of the episode. That was really cool. And then, speaking to what a lot of the rest of you mentioned as well, I do agree that, this is very much a 2-part episode between day and night. And, even the titles of the episode make it very clear that it's a 2-part. I do agree that the first episode it's very difficult to process it by itself. It's very difficult to process Day by itself, because while there were some interesting things in there, like the revelation of, you know, one more death of Kalnaka, and then the kind of cliffhanger that was interesting at the end. That kind of action sequence was definitely not really it was a very quick action sequence with the creatures in the forest. And there wasn't a ton of amazing dialogue and exposition in it, just a little bit more character kind of slow development, getting to know some of the characters a little bit more, and that was it. So it was very much a setup episode for this episode. But with that being said, because we had those setups, this episode was better. Like was mentioned, the fact that we spent a little bit more time with the Jedi, it just adds to the, you know, the empathy we feel to them when they are killed. And then also we had that discussion last week. Dom, of course, is not here to defend himself about how necessary the creature attack scene was. Now, of course, with what happened in the episode, we see that was very necessary so that the audience would know, you know, what was going to, you know, happen when, you know, that they were taken into the fight. So that makes a lot of sense. So
yeah,
I would say, you know, looking at the two episodes together, I think it's all a very strong thing. It definitely would have made sense, in my opinion, to have it be one episode that was just an hour long and maybe cut 5 or 10 minutes out of the previous one, as some of you have alluded to. But this episode itself, definitely, you know, the stuff in the back half, the stuff in the night part of the two-parter was absolutely incredible. And I do think it's some of the best Star Wars that we've seen. I thought it was absolutely incredible and just really cool to see a live action, you know, Sith just going absolutely ham on some Jedi. Like, that was wild to see. And, you know, we haven't really seen stuff of that level since really like Revenge of the Sith and, you know, the massacre in the Chancellor's Chamber that I personally have issues with. But that was the last time we saw so much slaughter of Jedi. So yeah, really, really intense episode. Very well acted, like you all have mentioned. Very well written, very well directed, and it's definitely put this series on a very good track after a moment where we're like, we see they're setting up something, but we're kind of uncertain. It feels like a liminal moment here. Now we really know what they were going for, and as a whole, it's really, really exciting. So let's dive into it. I think the first thing, the biggest thing that should be discussed off the top is just the big reveal. We've been speculating on who Darth Smiley was for, you know, weeks, months, years, and we finally get it. And one of the prevailing fan theories was right. It was the bumbling idiot Kamir, and man, was it quite a change of character to see his true self and switch his personality like that was absolutely incredible. So I'll go to you, Hannah, first. I mean, what was your reaction when, you know, they showed his face and you realized, oh my gosh, it is him?
Yeah, I think this, as the true identity of who's behind the mask, made sense. Of course, like you said, a lot of people speculated. We speculated it was him. So I think my reaction was just like, yeah, okay, let's go there. This is what we thought it was. Let's go there. Let's follow this. Because I think that's not really where the character ends either, which I enjoy. It's not just like, oh, okay, that's who it is, and we just accept that he's the villain, because now there's even more questions of, okay, well, it is him, so, but he was the one fake kind of working for May, but he was really the one in charge of May. So is there someone in charge of him? Is he the ultimate? There's all these questions now that we do know it's him. So I really love that fact. It's not just, now we know it's him, move on. There's so many more questions now with the reveal that it is in fact Kamir. So yeah, I'm really stoked that it was him. I one of my strong theories was it was going to be the Mother Coral, but I think this makes more sense, and I think this is a better storyline that it is him under that mask.
It really does. And I would say, you know, speaking about that concept of like, you know, does he have a master or not? The way that he's kind of pining after someone to train. And he just says, that he wanted an acolyte. It reminds me so much of what we've seen with Dooku, and Dooku always wanting acolytes like Asajj Ventress and Savage Opress. And so I get the concept of he's looking for someone to help him team up against his master, to kill his master. That would be my theory about what's going on. I don't think he's the Sith Lord. I think, he's just. I think the fact that he just called himself a Sith suggests that he's just a Sith. He's not the Sith yet, but maybe he will become that. So I'm very curious to see if this show keeps going backwards into then that lineage of we see his master, if we see him killing his master, if we see someone become his apprentice and kill him, if is that person going to be Plagueis? Like, it's all really intriguing and interesting, and I would be very excited if the show delves into that just as much as seeing the continuation of the twins' stories and the stories of the remaining Jedi that are somehow still alive at this point. More thoughts from you guys on the big reveal. Does anybody else have a big reaction to this? Joel.
Oh, well, first off, I just want to say, I love it when Kymer just goes to May and goes, "Oh, hey, May." And
He switches back.
That was funny.
That is so sis. Like, oh yeah, that's great. I mean, I got a lot of thoughts on this because this is my thing. This is my thing. My biggest sort of interesting takeaway thematically from this episode is Chimere. Well, a couple things. I've a lot of things. Chimere's just entire dichotomy here with the witches, because I think there's something interesting going on here. He talked about the Jedi don't let me use my powers the way I want to, and I think they're trying to make a parallel to the witches, but a difference as well. But the difference is between the witches and Chimere is the witches, as far as we know, that could change maybe if we get another more flashbacks. As far as we know, the witches, they just live in the coven. They just kind of live there. They don't really bother anybody. They don't bother them. They don't bother us. They're doing their thread thing, power many, power is ours, all that good stuff. Chimere's like, yeah, don't let me do what I want. I want to enslave people. I want to kill. Like, come on, let me get them conquer. I'm a Sith. What I gotta do? I can do that stuff. It's like, I think that's like the big difference here between the witches and the Sith. Thank you, Star Wars Explained. And he talked about something like the tolerance paradox of if you have a society that tolerates intolerance, intolerance will dominate your society because you can't. So you shouldn't tolerate those who are intolerant, and the Sith are always kind of intolerant. I mean, look at Palpatine. So you got that. Second of all, it's just really cool to see like this era of Sith before the Palpatine Plagueis Tenebrous stuff. I mean, obviously that's kind of legend, so take that what you will. But like Siths are like living in the woods, and they're like maybe in ruined castle, not living it up on 500 Republica. Like, we shall use our tax accounts to destroy the Jedi. Come to Plagueis Sidious to the banking clan. Ooh. So it's kind of interesting seeing the Sith kind of in the wilderness here. They're not in political high office or running big mega CEO corporations. They're just kind of whatever Chimere is doing at the moment, just kind of doing his thing, and kind of also kind of blowing his cover. If he had this as master, he's probably pissed. But yeah, those are just two of my thoughts, and I can probably have many more to talk.
That's until thank you, Joe. That's until we find out that he's really Bruce Wayne, and that is only he's Batman and Bruce Wayne, but he's also a billionaire as well.
You never know. You never know.
You never know. Oh my gosh, Ben, what was your reaction to this? You said you were crawling towards the television as it was happening.
Right. So, yeah, I mean,
because of the biceps. You saw his biceps, and you just couldn't.
I must get closer to those biceps.
The biceps. Oh my god. I love it.
Fainting. Yeah, it was about like that. I mean, I wouldn't say I was shocked. Okay, like I said, I think the show has been trying to tell us this or tell us something was up with Chimera since episode 2, I think is when he first showed up. So there was this whole thing. I mean, since the trailer, we caught him saying "peace is a lie." That was the tip off right there. This guy's really a Sith Lord. I mean, Star Wars fans gonna Star Wars fan. All the pieces have been there all this time. It's nice to get the confirmation because I was on board with it. I was like, I like this guy. I like Manny Jacinto in this role. I like the sinister vibes he gives off. I like the idea of, oh, here's this bum that's just running around. We meet him. He's drunk. He's sleeping. And oh, by the way, he's the Dark Lord of the Sith that's trying to take over the galaxy. That's interesting. That's really interesting. And I mean, obviously he kills it. The physicality of it, the helmet, it's all right there. He is genuinely terrifying, but also how like Joel was saying, how he turns it on and off. He's oh, hello, this back into this thing and doing this dual role a la Palpatine. Perhaps this is where good old Sheev learned how to do that. Maybe he picking up on some of these Sith genes, if you will, of how to manipulate people and how to play these dual roles and how to really act in a way that you can have Jedi come up in your face and they just don't know. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Also, jumping off what Joel was saying, the framing of I just want freedom. It reminds me. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think there's a passage from the Revenge of the Sith novelization or something where Palpatine is having a conversation with Anakin, and Palpatine boils down the Jedi's the Jedi are trying to destroy the Sith, and he's he boils it down to religious discrimination. I'm just so what's if he's a Sith? We don't just go around just killing people or putting them in prison because they're of a certain faith. He does that. And I like this idea.
25 years later.
But he's like Joel said, he's a psychopath that wants to murder people. I just want the freedom to cause chaos and murder and pillage and all this kind of stuff. And it's just, the sincerity that he gives into that is amazing. I cannot, again, and then going off of what Dominic said, I'm sorry, I'm rambling here, but there's so many thoughts. Okay. Just bear with me. Who's the main characters anymore? We had a bunch of characters. Now they're dead. I don't think Soul's going to survive much longer. I'm not even sure about the twins now. Is Manny Jacinto, is Chimera, is he the main character? This is a Sith-focused show. I don't know. I think expect the unexpected at this point.
Yeah, I mean, my interpretation is that that May and Osha are the main characters of the show and the protagonists of the show in the classical writing sense. And I think the fact that May is the one that's referred to as an acolyte. The show's titled The Acolyte, and also the fact that the logo of the show, the O in Acolyte, is the depiction of the eclipse that is happening on their home planet during their ritual ceremony to be given the witch powers. I think all those things speak to the fact that they're the ones that are still connecting. They're the thread through the whole story. But with that being said, as far as who else is going to get screen time, I think it's anybody's guess at this point, and that's really exciting. It keeps you on your toes, on the edge of your seat. It's crawling towards the television like Ben. It's absolutely amazing. Matthew, do you have any thoughts to share about Darth Smiley, Darth Biceps now?
First off, happy early Canada Day to Manny Jacinto, Vancouver's Manny Jacinto. What a performance! What a fantastic just turn, as you guys have all mentioned. Just the way he can be the bumbling, goofy Chimera. I don't know if he is necessarily himself like Manny Jacinto in the mask for those scenes. As we know with the Mandalorian, that's also not the case. But the way he does, even when the mask is off, he's able to go back and forth and really embody and be this the Sith Lord, really in a really convincing way, despite how we had just seen him be so convincingly the bumbling, goofy kind of drug dealer or whatever, or not necessarily drug dealer, user or whatever, behind the shop there. What I will say though is maybe I'm a victim of expectations of fan theories. I was kind of like, okay, it's the simplest solution. That's fine, and we talk about how sometimes the simplest solution is the best. I'm not so sure this was the most interesting in terms of maybe Sith lore. I can see it playing out as a more interesting character story. Yeah, there we go. That look, it definitely is. I would have, part of my mind was going to, the Aftermath trilogy with Yupta Shu and the Acolytes of the Beyond, and how the mask, I think was Omar's theory about how the mask is controlling this bumbling idiot character, and then Jason, and then puts the mask on and is now this other character, kind of like how we have with Moment and other instances in paper where that's explored, because that would have given us more access, I think, to previous, through the Sith lineage. It could have been a way to evade them being part of. Sorry, I'm scratching my eyes here. Evade them being part of the actual Sith rule too, and they're trying to do something else. It's weird and different, but now that we've got it, okay, we've got it. That's fine. It's definitely something we've all said, built up over the series. It makes me wonder two things. I can go back and forth still about this. Is okay, why not just give that to us in the first or second episode? Because of the way it's treated all the other mysteries. Or at least the mystery of the twins wasn't a mystery. This seemed kind of unnecessarily drawn out then, and that's just my one irk about it.
I might have my counter with.
Sure, but that's my one irk about it. But again, I'm gonna get over it. Like, I've gotten over, just to pick up what I was saying, we were getting at before about how episode 4 was kind of wonky. I've gotten over how all of that now, because we've seen episode 5. So episode 6 to 8, I'll probably be just with more time with this character. I'll probably be able to, just get into it and accept it and feel my way through it better. I do want to pick up on the ideas question again, because this is what I was getting at before with the show being what people need it to be, what people want it to be. And here we have the quote, and specifically the quote is, no, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but this galaxy-spanning religious institution has denied my existence, and it says I can no longer exist. And to hear, just like with Mother Coral, to hear her words in contrast to Mother Anasea, who has this very, kind of, I won't say postmodern is the right word, anti-institutional line. It's not about right or wrong, but about power and who gets to wield it. That's said in from a very sympathetic character. This line about how the Jedi say I don't have the right to exist, that's said in, of course, a very unreliable, unsympathetic character. This show, and here's my incendiary take, and I hope I'm wording this delicately and sensitively. This show is maybe one of the most progressive things Star Wars has done. It's also it's asking, I don't want to use the word, but it's asking questions of kind of progressive discourse about identity politics. It's asking the question, okay, some folks do need to have this relationship with galaxy-wide or global religious institutions where they've come out of it and said, oh, this community didn't let me exist, and so I have to go and find myself. And we see that in everyone. We see that, frankly, we see a little bit with May. We've seen that in better ways with other shows. I think we've seen it especially with Star Trek, for example, in the way they've dealt with identity questions. We see it with May, oddly, again in episode 3 with Alsha, with her coven saying this group isn't letting me exist. I'm going to go join the galaxy spanning religious institution because maybe that's going to find my path. I think that's going to be complicated. Here, I think with this episode, Leslie is asking, it's going to be complicated in the next 3 episodes, I think. But here, Leslie is asking, what way is it possible for, what are the limits? This is what we're getting with the what's the word, the tolerance paradox. What are the limits on the claims of identity politics? What are the limits on the thing of letting me exist? Are there ways in which, I'm probably the wrong person to say this, but I'm just seeing, I think Leslie's asking this, can that language get weaponized in directions that don't actually build up a progressive, inclusive society?
Yeah,
and create more division. And so,
yeah.
well, I guess my last point I want to say then is, what is my last point? Shoot. Okay, I'll come back to it. But yeah, this is my last point. This is my last point is, it's really dealing. I mean, the thing the show I want from the show, and the thing I needed from the show, because I'm not immune to it at all. Right? Some people need the Jedi to be the evil religious institution. Some people need the Sith, I don't know, to be, need the Jedi be the religious institution. Here's the thing: some of them need it because they feel, with their own religious trauma or their own background, they need to be something to push against. I think one of the things, here's the weird thing, it's a problematic thing, and we've called them kind of, I don't want to say fake fans, but their discourse hasn't been helpful. But they need something to rail against, like Catholic Kennedy. She's the woke. This is the woke show. We got to rail against it. There are reasons people feel that way, and I'm curious about why people need to feel that way, need to have that as well. What I need is a show that I think Soul is going to is, can there be a more complicated relationship to the institution? More complicated relationship that incorporates the traumas and struggles of our past and moves us beyond them or past them.
Yes. Those are very kind of deep points, but I've kind of sensed a little bit of it. But expanding upon that, from what I've sensed, I definitely think there's a lot going on there that I can, grasp. And I think one of the things is, you have kind of a few different versions of storytelling that kind of Star Wars and just Disney Plus storytelling has gone through in general. Like, you have the version from the prequels that is very much shown in Attack of the Clones and especially Revenge of the Sith, where the Jedi, while they are the good guys, are shown to have flaws, and those flaws are exploited by Palpatine. And I think that shows the limits of those identity politics right there. And George Lucas set the boundaries for that within the Star Wars universe, within the didactic, the moral of his storytelling. Before even this became a big point of discussion in socio-political conversations, because he showed how, Palpatine tried to coax Anakin into an identity for the purpose of manipulating and seducing him. And while the things that he was saying might have been true from a certain point of view, and the criticisms of the Jedi might have been true, those cracks that he got into Anakin's psyche through were legitimate cracks and legitimate problems. It also showed that, you can go too far, certainly, and then see what happened to Anakin when he's talking about, the peace that he's bringing in his new empire. It's very much a violent, non-progressive type peace, but an authoritarian, a fascist type of peace, which is the opposite of, what progressivism is trying to accomplish. But then you saw from that very kind of polar view of good and evil, the concept of there's very much a fine line of good and evil between every person. And I think a lot of, I saw this big time in like the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show. And then there's been bits and pieces of it in some of the Star Wars shows as well. You saw a lot of it in Andor, that blurring of the lines of, it's not as simple as everybody just piles onto one side. These are the good guys. These are the bad guys. These are progressives. These are the fascists. And so what's interesting about this show, and I think what you're speaking towards, Matthew, is something that I sense, which is, while in a sense the show has a lot of progressive roots, and clearly, a lot of the people writing this show, are, would be seen as progressives within that socio-political spectrum of thought. It definitely has a hard definition of evil and of extremism that, you know, that boundary of identity politics that is gone too far. And it's interesting to see a villain character in Star Wars that is so purely evil that we don't feel sympathetic towards at all. There's no sympathy for Khmer at all. You know, you just see him as straight 100% twisted and evil. And that's something that doesn't really exist in a lot of the broader storytelling that's happening right now. A lot of the broader storytelling is about how evil is discord between two people, and both might have a legitimate point of view, but when those 2 points of view collide with each other and are not reconciled, then bad things happen. And so evil is either systemic or because of the friction between people coming from different directions. And so it's interesting to see it embodied by a person yet again. And then going back to talking about the Jedi versus the Sith versus the witches and those three groups and how they viewed things, it's interesting to know that with the witches, when Osha wanted to leave, it seemed like they were going to let her. And it is all, and they were gonna let her go, it seemed, with like well wishes. We just still don't know quite the circumstances that Osha left the Jedi, but we do know that the Jedi can be pretty unforgiving in situations where Jedi are leaving, as we know from what happened with Ahsoka, for example. So there's a little bit of difficulty there. Barriss is another example of that. But then you also see the fact that some people think, oh, I'm not even allowed to exist. But, you know, is that a correct thing? Should they not be allowed to exist? The audience is led to believe that they shouldn't. And that's where that limit is being placed. So it's all very interesting. But I think one thing I'll add quickly, and then I'll go to you, Joel, is I do think that I agree with what you say, Matthew, where it's like I'm trying to see where people are having problems with the progressivism in this show. And I definitely think that the show is not overtly progressive in such a way that people should be just absolutely rattled by it. I think it's a pretty neutral show, in my opinion, from a socio-political point of view.
I'll say only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Yeah.
And that's the only character that deals in absolutes in this. So.
I'll say if I want to bring up a few points. I mean, first off, I think most people just don't like it because there are ladies as our main characters, and that's pretty much just as basic, simple as that. But I think, weirdly enough, I think what we're all talking about is something, Matthew, I don't know if you remember what we talked a little about in our New Republic discussion with our buddy Dan, Star Wars Centralized. Go see him. Say hi. Where we were talking about the escapism versus the non-escapism of Star Wars, right? You know, OT, very escapist. Good guys, bad guys. You know, maybe a little bit of gray with Vader, a little bit. And then, you know, get to the prequels, and that's where things the escapism starts to really kind of lose its luster a little bit. We've gone back and forth of what George considers the escapism, what he doesn't when it comes to Jedi. But, you know, for the purposes of this talk, that's where the escapism starts to lose. Sequels, the escapism kind of really comes back again. You know, the First Order, irredeemably, fascistically evil. Not a good thing about him. Got General Hux shouting like a crazy person. Maybe a little bit of Kylo because he is, you know, the son of Leia and Han, so you feel a little bad for him. And then, you know, with most of the Disney Plus shows, you know, Mando, pretty escapist. I kind of disagree a little bit with you, Chris, about the villains. I think most of the villains we've gotten in the Disney Plus shows have been pretty bad. Moff Gideon, pretty just evil. Thrawn the shows, pretty evil. Just ignore the books. I don't want to get into that. You know what I'm talking about, Matthew. We've done our thing. You know, even the High Republic, you know, I don't feel any sympathy for Marcion Rowe. I think he's just a crazy person. The Nihil are just, let's do evil for evil's sake. Yeah. No, that's very much a non-escapist. The Jedi are light and life, and the Nihil are just these crazy pirates. Really, Andor and this show, I feel like, are the do not have that sort of escapist kind of elements to it. Although I do think Andor at the end of the day is like, no, if you're part of the Empire, you're still irredeemably evil. It doesn't matter if you're like a nicer person. You're part of this evil system, and therefore you have a responsibility to either leave it, destroy it, or something. You know, the system itself can be immoral area as well. And the Empire is an evil, immoral system. The show as well is, I think this gets more into that question of, systems and the morality and the greatness of it all, and whether or not the Jedi, I don't know where it will land. I mean, I kind of, in my opinion, that it's saying still the Jedi on the whole are a good, even if they did a mistake, a bit of a whoopsie with the witches. We don't know. We don't even know about the witches right now per se. Like, what really are they? What's their deal? I mean, they seem okay-ish. It's a little weird. There's only 2 girls, and what's going on with the mind control, but it's not like they're planning world domination. And then ultimately, yeah, I do think the show also says, yeah, even though we're in an escapist, not as escapist show, the Sith are still the bad guys. If you're part of the Sith, you're part of an evil system that wants chaos and destruction, and we just want to do whatever we want. Burn down the forest because we can. Kill the Jedi because we can. Kill the village because we can. That is very much Chimere and Palpatine. He talks about how he wants peace. We all know that Palpatine just wants to be malevolent and psychotic and just, just electrocute everybody every Tuesday because he can. So I think that's what we're getting at. It's about, is this an escapist Star Wars show, or is this a not as escapist Star Wars show as we saw when the prequels came along? And I think every Star Wars installment will always kind of tilt back and forth between escapism and that, I guess, realism, for lack of a better term.
All I'm going to say is, Hannah, I think it's your turn to have a big long speech about how this episode connects to socio-political themes and subjects. So go.
Thing. That's just how we do.
No pressure. 20 minutes straight. Here we go. I think it's an important conversation to have, and I do appreciate everyone's thoughts. And I mean, Matthew and Joel, both of you are renowned thought provokers in this realm of politics and Star Wars. So I think I'll leave my conclusive kind of political and social. I think more social is maybe more the word from my point of view. Effect of the show to the end. I think. This show is moving something, and it's saying something, and it's commenting on things, and that can be good or bad, how you perceive it, and it is very interesting, and it's definitely something that's very real in the show. Yeah, but I'll have to think about it more with this show.
Hey, I think the last thing I'll say before we move on to some other very interesting moments, to say the least, of this show that need to be talked about, is kind of speaking to the one thing that you said, Matthew, about why are people reacting to the show the way that they are. And I think it very much is the cave on Dagobah. It's like Luke's asking Yoda what's in there, and Yoda's like, only what you take with you. I feel like a lot of the thoughts and criticisms of this show are being brought into the show by the audience. They don't exist within the show. I think, there were things that were said by Kathleen Kennedy, Leslie Headland, Amanda Stenberg prior to the show releasing that caused a portion of the audience, the potential audience, to categorize the show in a certain way and view it a certain way before it even aired, and then is kind of picking out just, cherry picking pieces of it to say, look, CC, it's like my theory, this show is going down this direction in its messaging. And I really think that just watching the show, not thinking about what's existing outside of the actual media, the minutes of screen time of the show, I think it's very much not in line with what people are negatively casting it as. And I think a lot of people have realized that. I think a lot of people have come around, especially after this episode, and said, no, this is good, classic, Star Wars. But I think there will always be a certain amount of people who, are kind of seeing an agenda where there isn't one, because that's their pastime is to have conspiracy theories about that, and then sadly to preach to a choir of people who have similar views and make money from it as well. Is very unfortunate.
I just want to say one more thing, which is a more critique and something you brought up, Matthew. I think the Chimera thing is one of those side effects of this could have been a movie. Because, like, imagine Force Awakens with a series, and you get, like, 2 episodes of who the heck is Kylo Ren, and we're all like, oh, it's Han Leia's son. It's Han Leia's son. And eventually, like, yeah, it's Han Leia's son. Like, I feel like if this were a movie, we would have gotten over that. Like, really quick. So it's like, just drag it out.
Yeah,
it's funny how, like, we all talked about how, like, last episode was weird and how it was a little anticlimactic, if you will. But like the only comparison I can think of is like if you're watching The Last Jedi in parts, like if The Last Jedi was a TV series, and you get to the part where he kills Snoke and then it just like cuts to black. Like that's basically what happened last week. So, I don't know. Like, this episode was just like that episode was like kind of all over the place in my opinion, and this episode was like just nonstop perfection. So like together it might have just brought the whole thing down. So I don't know.
Yeah, it would have needed to be shortened a little bit. It would have been a bit much to have a 70-something minute episode, but certainly a 60-minute episode that told the whole story, I think, would have been great. But again, that's basically what we're getting when we're going to go back and watch this show, one episode after another. And we've discussed this before. If you view it as a show that you're just going to watch in the future continuously from one episode to the next without waiting, a lot of the decisions make a lot more sense with the way it's meta paced between episodes. But we have an unfortunate amount of eulogies to get to. So without further ado,
Father to the son, the mother to the daughter, the whole
we just both the exact same.
Without further ado, let's all talk about our poor dear late Jessica.
Yes, I want to jump on this first because I have been waiting the hour and 6 of this show to get to this point, because I have had a realization of what this is and her death scene. So very sad. I mean, I'll breeze over. Very sad to see her go. She was shaping up to be a very interesting character and quite a fan favorite. But I thought, this go-getter independent Padawan feels like something we've seen before and had before. And everyone thought the Ahsoka similarity. And I definitely felt that the reverse green double sabers, very Ahsoka, great. But no, there's another Padawan that striked me when I saw this kind of combat and how she died. I was like, what this reminds me of? A little bit of a certain Nadar Veb, the Padawan of Kit Fisto. Mm-hmm. And you might have seen my tweet. I tweeted this yesterday. I said, this just reminded me so much like it. They're both very independent go-getters. To be fair, Nadar Veb was a lot more dislikable, and he was very arrogant. And Jackie didn't share that kind of similarity with him. But just the fact, Padawan, and it was kind of teaching the masters of Soul and of Kit Fisto some sort of point or story or lesson they needed to learn. But I was currently, I was putting together my review video for this episode, and I spoke about this point about how, it reminded me of Nadar Veb. And I went and watched the scene in the clip in the episode where they go to the lair of Grievous in Clone Wars. And this is so similar, and it's such a direct link that they both even die in the same way. So it's the move where, in Clone Wars, Grievous has Nadar in like a cross section pattern of the sabers above the head, and does the multiple stabs in the abdomen, and that's how Nadar dies. And that's exactly how Jackie dies. So I was so stoked when I watched that this morning. I was like, oh my God, what a fantastic, just little random similarity comparison there that they definitely seem to have taken very much direct inspiration from, similar to the whole in the first episodes, Osha being in the tunnel and being in the opening of the tunnel and like by the cliff, that being very similar to Ahsoka in her running away episodes, that her arc. Again, just another really direct link to Clone Wars, which I loved. So there you go. She died exactly like Nadav.
I don't know as far as the choice of like how that choreography went and how that was shot, how much of that was in the hands of the writers versus the director. But I did want to say that, the direction that Alex Garcia Lopez had in this episode really did remind me of Boss Kong's direction for Lair of Grievous. And there are a lot of similarities between Lair of Grievous and Night. I mean, the first one is that they're both very dark episodes. Most of the Lair of Grievous takes place in the lair, and even in the light, it's very misty. So there's no real direct light in the entire episode, and similar to this one. The other one is that they're both very much horror. They're horror stories. They're being in Lair of Grievous, it's the Jedi and the clones being stalked by the monstrous Grievous through his lair. And in this episode, it's the Jedi being stalked by the Sith. So there's a lot of similarities in the pacing and the darkness and the horror of both of those episodes. So it would not surprise me at all if the writers and potentially the director as well of this episode Night are familiar with Boss Kong's fantastic episode of the Clone Wars. That was the first episode of the Clone Wars that I considered transcendent of previous Star Wars material. I thought everything else up to that point was derivative or inferior. And that was the first time I thought someone's actually pushing Star Wars beyond this threshold that it hasn't pushed before. And I think that this episode of The Acolyte is continuing to push it beyond thresholds, which is amazing.
And Matthew Hardy in the chat. Yes, I apologize. He didn't stab him with the lightsaber. He got shot in the abdomen, but he was still.
You still have those holes in his abdomen.
Yeah, he had the holes in the abdomen still.
Yeah, so it looked the same at the end. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. No, that was quite the moment. Does anyone else want to speak at the funeral of the late great Jackie Leggy?
I'll say something. Oh, Ben, you go, Ben. I've talked more than you.
I'm just
oh, okay.
Just mourning the loss.
That's just crying over there in the corner.
I know, it's so sad. One thing though, I'll just say that someone pointed out that I really liked. Jackie's fighting Chimera before she dies. She has no fear. She's almost like hyped about it in some way, and I think she really could have been one of the great Jedis because she has confronted her fear. She has overcome it, and now she's going to take down this Sith Lord, or just Sith. He might not be a Lord just yet. And I think that's just, I just found that really interesting. Like, yeah, she is, until she obviously gets stabbed, she is ready to go. She's ready to take down the Sith. She's ready to take down May. She is confident in her training, not too cocky, but she trusts her training. She trusts her instinct. She trusts the Force. It didn't work out in the end, sadly, because she got stabbed. But, I really do kind of find that interesting. It's like, yeah, she did not show fear in those final moments. She fought like a true Jedi would.
I was very much surprised. I mean, from one perspective, I was surprised at how much she held her own, especially in the fight against May. How powerful, she was, and how she also was able to even spar with the Sith for a good amount of time. And I think that thinking about the confidence that she has and that the other Jedi have, it's interesting to compare the Jedi of this era with the Jedi in the Clone Wars era, because by the time you get to the Clone Wars, they're aware of the Sith's resurgence. They're aware that there's very formidable opponents, and you often have them, signaling caution to each other, like Obi-Wan constantly signaling caution to Anakin. Wait, because they know, how powerful the Sith are. At this point, these Jedi, they've just ran probably through everything that they've faced, that they've encountered. Everything's been weaker than them and very able to be handled with their Force powers. They're on top of the world. They think they're Superman, that nothing can best them with their, because they've got the Force and no one else does, or if they do, they have a very bad version of it that's not trained fully. And so, she goes into the fight, even as a Padawan, into the fight with May and into the fight with Khmer, expecting to easily beat them. You could tell with the confidence and the Force that she comes in. She's not hesitant or cautious at all in those situations. There's no sizing them up at all. She just goes right into it. And it was amazing to watch. It made for some great choreography. It sadly was overconfidence that was weakness, as one once said.
Yeah. I think it's just like the fact that she's a Padawan doing all this. And some people were like questioning that. I'm like, no, I think it's just like Soul's just a really good master. She's really adept at this. We saw her training at the temple. I think that was a foreshadowing to what we saw here. But Matthew, please go ahead.
So I was pointing back here because in case people are wondering, this person right back there, we see her in the Acolyte. She's older. She's bald. This is Vernesta Rowe, and she's in about 16, 17, 18, whatever. Jackie reminds me, there's definitely the Ahsoka parallels. Okay. Oh yeah, so you guys can see good virgin variant.
Matthew zoom in jump scare. That was great. I love that. Let's just do the show like this now. I like this. Just to
pain, by the way, that's a whole other. Anyway, so Vern and so definitely, so there's definitely the Ahsoka parallel. I get that, and the Clone Wars. All the Clone Wars parallels. You talk about confident Jedi. This one right here. So I'm guessing Dom may have given a bit of a background on her. She raised to knighthood. She's made knight at like 16, and is this prodigy who is actually somewhat capable. Probably not as capable as she thinks she is, but it didn't her. So Jackie's confidence and capacity didn't surprise me at all, because remember 100 years ago that would have been common, and this is in continuity with those Jedi of that time, even the gold robes, and talking about how this is a High Republic show on live action. That's a big part of it, is that the Jedi are that capable even at that age, and a really big part of the feel. So she's able to really wrestle May down and arrest her, and so what this gets me to think then is, okay, the overall historical context here. Kathleen Kennedy saying this show is at the end of the High Republic era. What characterizes the High Republic era is the Jedi and the Golden Age, and the Republic being in we are all the Republic, and that bringing confidence. And that the end of it is the end of that confidence, the end of that the Jedi's ability to be the guardians of peace and justice in the galaxy that the Project Luminous, the initial tease for High Republic showed. We're seeing it on the screen, and that's the thing, is we're seeing. I think Jackie's death in a way symbolizes that, not even more so than Yord's, and we'll get to Yord in a bit, but Jackie is so earnest and so genuine, and you can even see the little, I don't know if you want to call it a crush or just the kind of her face lightens up with when she sees Osha, that that's all straight out of the books, frankly, and so to see her meet her demise that way, that really signifies a turning of the guard.
Yeah. So you spoke to it. Let's also include in this funeral poor Yord, who went out in a horrible way. Horrible way. That was probably the most brutal death of all of them. That was intense.
Also, especially fitting for the whole point of this is like, May is wrestling with, I have to kill a Jedi without a weapon. And her saying it's impossible, and then he just does it like it's nothing. And Yord had a great plan. He used he used his helmet to knock out both of their lightsabers. And you're like, oh, that's a brilliant plan. Nah. Both Jackie and Yord had great plans. Didn't go anywhere. And man, somebody at Swagman, whoever's running Star Wars Twitter, y'all are messed up. Okay, you've been hyping up this Yord Horde all these weeks. You've been things just cackling, laughing. You knew all along, and you just did it anyway. How dare you?
So there we go.
Yord lives.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I'll jump in. I'm still Yord Horde. I will always be Yord Horde. I will never not be Yord Horde. Joel, the Eye On Canon podcast is perpetually Yord Horde until we go off the air one day. Maybe that'll never happen. We'll always be Yord Horde. That was a disappointment. I mean, I really loved this character. I really thought precisely because, not precisely, in part because of his comedic spark. He takes himself way too seriously, and so Asha and Jackie are making fun of him for that. Really, just a lovable character that comes in episode 4. The best moment in episode 4 is his when he says to Asha, you come here to face yourself. Hopefully, we actually see that happening in the next 3 episodes. But again, another one of those kind of ruthless, characters we've gravitated towards that are, just like it's similar. One of the things this show is doing, it's doing what Game of Thrones did well, and that's with the killing people off, in the effect of that being the things we're so used to caring about, the things we're so used to following and focusing on, including also just the reveal with the twins, for example, maybe also with Chimera. That those aren't actually the most important, and these are misdirects that we're supposed to actually just really focus in on Asha and May and Chimera and maybe Soul. And so we get attached to these other characters, and then the narrowing down and the shedding out of it, and almost training us to be better consumers of story. Almost training us to be, I don't even want to use the word consumer, that's too capitalist, right? Too passive. Better engagers of story, better audience, and that's this whole, I think, a big theme of this whole show. And I've got what I was getting to it with my previous sermon. Marshall McLuhan, Canadian communications expert Marshall McLuhan. We bring him up in Canon a little bit. His whole thing was the medium is the message. His second part to that is that the content is the audience. So, Chris, what you were saying about how it's all what we bring into it, and that's people reading things into it. I think this show is training us to bring better things into it, bring a better mind to story, because we get attached to these characters, we enjoy them, and then let's relativize that sense and let's focus in, especially for the last 3 episodes, on what's really happening.
Indeed.
You have such poignant points there, Matthew, and not to detract from any of that, but I cannot get past the fact that the way you pronounce Osha sounds every time to me sounds like you're saying Usher. And I just think of the musical artist. So you're just talking about Usher's character is really important in this show, and I'm like, Usher, what has he got to do with this? I was like, Osha. I don't know if it's the Canadian and Australian. I don't know. It didn't translate. I was like, what is he saying?
I was hearing that as well.
Why is he talking about Usher right now?
We were at this point in this show, we are all pronouncing every character differently.
We do. We literally, everyone pronounces it differently.
Is it Quamir? Is it Chimera? Is it Chimera? Chimera?
Martian.
We don't know how to pronounce. I don't know how to pronounce any of these names.
I love it. Love it.
Han or Han? Who knows? We'll never know. Leah or Leia? Yeah. Yes, exactly. We also had some other Jedi that we didn't know as well that we must mention in the end memoriam.
Rip them.
And
of course, I don't know if you've got a photo of it, but of course, the Jedi kebab, the Jedi skewer barbecue, with that happened as well.
We get banned off YouTube if we showed that.
True. But jeez, I want to go to a barbecue with Cormier. He can skewer some things, can't he? Wow.
Ben, did you personally make the this episode and memes meme? Was that you who made that?
Yes.
Oh
yes.
my gosh!
I'm
boldness to an actual kebab in that meme.
I'm not sure. I might have stolen that from someone. I do that occasionally. But I'm pretty sure that wasn't almost a fully original thought of Jedi kebab. A lot of people were saying that online. I'm just like, okay, yeah, this is spoilers out of context. Let's just show a kebab. Because that's just. And every reaction that I watch is just people going, oh! It's just like, no way they just
that
did
was
that.
Something else. That was, yeah.
I have a super lore kind of nerdy question after all my deep intellectual thoughts. Is it just me or the lightsabers like Galaxy's Edge thickness now?
They seem thicker, and I'm also a little bit confused about the multiple scenes where they look like they've been taken out, and then they just like shake them and they turn back on.
The cortosis.
Like, what is that?
Yes, cortosis. I've been schooled in this as well because I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know, but my live chat schooled me on this. I mean, I'm assuming Matthew and Joel, you guys are probably about to explain cortosis.
It was actually Chris Abbott on Tractor Beam last night. He was all cortosis from
there you go.
It's from the Thrawn the original Thrawn trilogy, I believe. Thrawn Alliance. Talking about the Legends history, but in Thrawn Alliances, Thrawn and Anakin come across the cortosis factory. Here's a connection.
Jeez, I should remember that. I read that last
year.
Yeah,
I mean, I have an excuse.
Actually, the first appearance of cortosis was in I, Jedi.
Can we speak about how the unbalanced it is? Where it's like the writers of this show reach all the way back to a reference to the Thrawn trilogy, which was written in the early 90s, and yet they're getting blasted for slightly altering Ki-Adi-Mundi's age, which was sourced on a card in a role-playing game.
No. I'll do you one better, Chris. I'll do you one better. Cortosis got so changed up throughout Legends in the KOTOR games and like the newer Legend stuff that Leslie Headland not only brought back cortosis, she used it as it was originally intended by Michael Stackpole.
There you go.
But she didn't use the KOTOR version.
So it's amazing. It's amazing the references that we have here.
It's like people want to react the way they want to react.
There was a little bit shockingly with them being the supposed protagonists of the show. There was not as much, Osha and May. At this point, I'm like, is that Osha or is that May in this photo? I don't even know. Because of the little switcheroo.
Because they're both wearing the same clothes at different points.
but that was, I guess, the question is that I think is really interesting is, gosh, what happens next? How long is May going to be able to keep up this Parent Trap ruse?
I mean, what is her play? Like, what do we think she's doing? Because I think most people did, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is sus. She's clearly wearing her clothes. What's she doing? She's gonna go. I thought maybe she, after everything that happened in this episode, like, okay, she's just gonna go back to the ship. She's gonna stab him in the back and take his ship. Like that's what I thought. But the fact that they went off, and then our buddy Basil's there, and he's on the case. He saved Pip, and now I mean Can Soul speak Basil? And is he going to tip him off? I don't know, but it's like, is she going to go back to the Jedi Temple? What is the play? Do we have any theories about this?
I mean, I'm more interested in, what happens because I don't think May fully knows what happened with the fire either. And she has her version of it. Of course, Asha, whatever her name is pronounced, has her version of it.
Asha.
And I was curious, what that's the weird thing about this switch is what happens, because I wanted to know what will Asha's be. Now I'm self-conscious how I pronounce her name. What will her response be?
I love it. You're in Dominic's seat, so I'm just naturally going, oh, okay, this is the one I got to be.
We're just built in here in America because her name is an organization that protects workers from injury in the United States. So.
Right. OSHA.
Yes.
I mean,
actually,
do you have
Kebab? I gotta circle back to Kebab. I mean, I'm sorry for hijacking.
Wait, Kebab is an acronym in Australian?
I say kebab. What do you? Wait, is that two different things? Kebab? What's a kebab?
It's the Arab.
That's,
Like
that's a
B-O-B.
kebab.
Are you saying
Yeah, we say
kebab?
Kebab.
It's the same thing.
I say it's kebab. It's an A here. Kebab.
It's also an A here, but we pronounce it like in father. Interesting.
Oh, so okay, right. So it's spelled the same. You just choose to not.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't
pronounce the
say
letter.
we
It
don't say
is.
shish
Great.
kebab.
Awesome.
I mean, some people say shish kebab, but it sounds like I'm speaking like a Boston accent or something when I
Yeah.
say shish kebab. It
I
sounds
call it shish
like
kebab,
strange.
but-
Is that what you say? Do you say shish kebab? Is that how you say it?
So
I don't. I don't frequent
shish?
the first part. I don't know shish.
Okay,
here.
If I went around saying shish kebab, and especially in my part of the U.S., people would look at me for they would burn me at the stake. What are you kidding? What are you talking about?
Yeah, I
They
love
would
it. Yeah,
put
they'll
you
think,
on-
they'll think
into
you're
a
a
shish
witch or
kebab.
something.
You would be on a
He's
shish
a wizard.
So anyway,
Oh my god.
Asha on
Anyway,
the-
sorry, Matthew. Oh my god. I'm so
No,
sorry.
This is already my tangent.
It's my yeah.
Exactly. I was curious to know what would happen when Soul tells her what happened with the fire.
Yes.
But Soul is instead going to probably tell May, who probably has her own version. That I mean, what if May's version really does make the Jedi look like the absolute villains because she's been in with the Sith, and I think the reality is actually more complicated.
So here's my hot
So
take.
let me get it. So what I'm saying is, it's not so much. I'm not so concerned with what her plan is. I don't know what her plan is because she doesn't seem to be that. May doesn't seem to be that logical, frankly. It's more what'll happen when she sees that, and then what if Chimera or whoever tells Asha, thinking it's May, or no, he knows who it is. Tells what his version and what happens with May. One thing I did notice with the wardrobe is they really set it up with these episodes where Asha is originally wearing white and May is wearing black, and now May is on the ship wearing the white, and Asha's wearing the black top.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, the
Classic.
intentional choice. So
Classic Star Wars.
I do
move.
wonder about this switcheroo. I do wonder, and that would be unfortunate because I want this happy resolution of people reconciling with their past, but I might not get that either.
Well, I mean, here's kind of my thought on it, especially this is kind of my hot speculation. I think Soul and Chimera are going to tell the truth, and I don't think like the twisted truth or the part truth. No, I think they're both going to tell the exact. No, this is what happened. Yeah, like when back in Last Jedi, or Rise of Skywalker, when Pally said you're a Palpatine or you're nobody. That was the truth. That's 100% the truth. Or like Count Dooku's control the Senate. Truth. I think they're going to tell these characters the truth, and I think it's going to be really telling how they react. That's going to be, like it's not going to be like, oh, Chimera's manipulating Osha, or Soul's just telling May. It's like, Osha's going to find out something, and it'll be very telling about her reaction. And I'm not confident it's going to be a very healthy reaction from Osha right now. Just if things are being
that's the
telegraphed the way
thing
they are.
is you have two different situations. You have Soul, who is promising to tell Osha the truth, but now he has May with him. She seemingly knows the truth, but maybe there's stuff that she doesn't know. What's her reaction going to be to that? And then on top of that, you have the stranger, Chimera, whatever you want to call him. He has every reason to tell Osha the truth. Does he know the truth? I'm assuming he does. And like, how will Osha react to that thing coming from him? Because he may not be entirely truthful. Obviously, he's going to do it in a way to make the Jedi look as bad as possible.
Yeah.
Why is it that now that we know who Darth Smiley is, they're giving Darth Smiley an ambiguous name? Shouldn't the reveal of this is the stranger been a few weeks ago when we were still ambiguous about? Now it seems kind of too late.
The reveal is a mysterious name.
He's not stranger anymore. He's Kabir. We know who he is.
That's such a good point.
The reveal is that he's not coming. Right?
The stranger is even stranger.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
But I think speaking back to May and May pretending to be a former Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make a prediction. I think my theory is that Soul knows it's May, but he's just going along with it just to see what'll happen and to not like cause any confrontations. Because Soul wants to, you know, save May. Like Soul still feels some responsibility for what happened in the situation, and you can tell that, you know, he wants to save her again because he couldn't the first time. So, you know, he's trying to almost like make a penance in a sense. And so I think his version of saving her is, well, maybe if she pretends to be a Jedi long enough, she'll go back to the light side. I feel like that because you could tell he had that hesitation. There was a look, you know, why am I forgetting the actor's name? The amazing South Korean actor that plays him.
Lee Jung-jae.
Thank you, Lee Jung-jae. Amazing actor and amazing acting in that scene. You could tell in his face, he was like, huh? Like there's just a little subtle, just you almost miss it, just kind of hesitation and pause when he sees May in Osha's outfit. And I just read into that as, oh, he knows, he can sense through the Force. This is not Osha. I mean, Osha was his former Padawan. He's gonna know her energetic, you know, Force signature personality. Like he's gonna be able to see through that, but he's gonna play along with it and see where it goes. And I think that's really fascinating. It's gonna make for some really interesting scenes in the next episode.
I don't know though, because I think he was genuinely so rattled by what happened.
Yes.
He's so emotionally compromised after that. Like he had this, you know, this guy who we've been talking about all this season of this, you know, he's the perfect Jedi. He's the Qui-Gon Jinn. He has a dark moment.
Mm-hmm.
He is at wit's end. You can see the anguish and the darkness in his eyes when he holds that blade to Kymer's throat. Like he is ready to kill him, and I think he would have if Osha hadn't stopped him. And he's broken. Like he's absolutely. I think that's the thing is that like, you know, everyone else is dead, but Soul's never going to be the same after this. Like Soul is absolutely emotionally destroyed by what happened. So I don't know if he's thinking straight. I don't know if he can actually like perceive all of this. Maybe, hopefully he is, but you know, I do agree. Like there is that moment where he's just like, what? Okay, she's gone, and what happened? And like he's trying to put the pieces together, but he's just so things. And the fact that he just like looks at Jackie's body and just walks away, I was just like, this dude is out of it. He is not in this right mind at all.
I can see that.
Yeah, I'm of that belief that he's too. What did you say? Emotionally compromised. I think that's such a great phrase. I think
I took it from
Force
Star Trek
abilities
for the record.
Shut up. His Force abilities are drained, and his ability to feel out that quickly and notice immediately, I feel like, is disturbed in some way. And I feel like that he's going to tell May what really happened that night, of his interpretation and point of view and what he did. And whatever that ends up being will change May's mind. And she'll realize, oh, the Jedi weren't the bad ones. And this is my other prediction. I'm going to segue on the back of this thought, is that Quimir was actually there that whole time with the witches on Brendok. He was a part of that. He was involved in that.
Wow.
And he was actually, we're going to see that he was actually super involved in what happened that night, because he was maybe, he heard that this witch coven have 2 Force-sensitive kids. We've seen that before, that not only the Jedi know, but other people do know, and especially Sith-like people know and find out. Quimir's gone there to go get a pupil, and that's when this like conflict has happened or something. Yeah. And May will find out that the Jedi and Soul weren't actually the baddies, for lack of a better term. And on the flip side, Osha will be twisted by Quimir, by whatever he's telling, whether it's a truth or a lie, but she will get twisted because she's so disturbed right now as well of what the hell's going on, trying to do the right thing. I think in some way or form she will get twisted as well, and we will get that switch of the characters. That's my prediction. That's what I feel like.
That's kind of where I agree. Yeah, because again, they're on the 2 extremes, and the reality is more complicated. And when you're holding, this is, I mean, what I was getting on with religious trauma, right? I mean, there's and any kind of deeper, trauma. I mean, we use that word a lot, but there's a a stage, a phase in it where you really need to hold on to an absolute, right? You cannot give quarter to the thing that abused you. You just simply can't. And you never can, really, but they have to be the enemy, right? For a time period. I think both Asha and May, for them, it's, for Asha, May is the enemy, for all intents and purposes, and for May, the Jedi are the enemy, and even I think for Asha, maybe even Coral and her upbringing there in the recesses there. The reality, though, is going to be, like kind of you're getting it's somewhere in the middle, where what I wonder, and this is bringing me back to episode 4 with the creatures in the forest. I think there's some bit of foreshadowing. I don't know if you guys have gotten into this, but how Asha, she starts to feel and sense the creature, she touches it, and then of course Soul later has to kill the creature. She says, I disturbed it, and now it's dead. So this is kind of where I think it's in the middle, is the Jedi clearly have the sense of guilt. They poked the hornet's nest, right? They did go and expose these kids. They did go and trespass on this land and say, outside the Republic, they still are flexing their muscle, flexing their weight, but they maybe just not intentionally, and that's the thing. They didn't intentionally cause anything. They exposed something for someone else, probably some Sithy character.
Imagine,
and so that just throws up everyone's sense of hero and villain. Again, Chris, getting back to what you were saying before,
yes,
how it cuts right through. Very Lutheran idea, by the way.
Imagine if the title of the next episode is Jedi Guilt. Then we'll know your theory was right there. Yeah. I could see that happening. All right, so let's get to our final thoughts, and feel free if there's anything you wanted to mention about the episode that wasn't talked about to throw it into the final thoughts as well. Everything. So I'm going to go to you first, Hannah, and this is also doubling as your outro to the show as well, because we know you need to go.
Yes.
But thank you for being on the show. Thanks for hosting. And what are your final thoughts and score out of 10 for episode 5 tonight?
Yeah, I mean, like I said at the top of the show, I just was so impressed with the epicness, the intensity, the suspense within this episode. 2 big moments of Jackie and Yor dying, and I think it is, in the scheme of this show, this episode is going to be that talked about one, that rewatched episode for a lot of people, and the point of the show where things might have turned for a much better way for a lot of fans as well. But I just think overall, as a cool, we talked a lot about the social political kind of constructs and deeper meanings within this episode, but as a visually entertaining piece of media, this was exceptional, absolutely exceptional for me. I think I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10, which I'm pretty confident with, which is really up there for me for a lot of episodes, which is kind of shocking because I think the lowest I've given this show, I think it was for last week. I think I gave that a 6. So to go from a 6 to a 9, I'm really happy with this show. But it shows, not to write things off after like one episode. So yeah, really happy, and it's an impressive piece. Can't wait for next week.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hannah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the show. Good to see you, Eye On Boyos, and I'll catch you all next time. Bye, everyone.
Later, and of course you can follow Hannah on social media at the Raeside, RAE side.
It's a wrap for me, just me. Bye.
Thank you, Hannah. Awesome. Continuing with some final thoughts, we'll go to you next, Ben. Final thoughts, score out of 10. Anything else you want to mention about the episode? Ben, you are on the mute. You must get off the mute.
Boy, I don't do that very much. Wow.
Happens to
just when I was getting my thoughts together. Yeah, I mean, I could. What I was going to say was I could talk all night about this episode, especially when I'm not muted. I mean, there's just so much. I think just the fact of this is one of the most visually spectacular and also some of the most, intriguing Star Wars we've ever gotten. I think if it had just been a 35 minute lightsaber duel between a bunch of different characters, like, I would have been ecstatic. I've watched tons of fan films and YouTube videos that were just that had paper thin characters but were lightsaber duels that make some of the films look bad. And I was very happy with those. The fact that this is so much more, that this features characters that over the last few weeks we've grown to really, really care about. And also a plot that I think is going in place that none of us can really know and understand and fully grasp. I think this changes everything about the show. It really sets this as just a completely different type of Star Wars show. And I can't wait to see what happens next, obviously, because the precedent has been set. We don't know what's going to happen to any of these characters. No one is safe. And that's really, really interesting. But I mean, it's just, you cannot, the production value, everything about this episode was things. So I can't not give it a 10 out of 10. I don't see any universe where I couldn't give it a perfect score.
Amazing. Perfect score from Ben. Matthew, what is your final thoughts and score out of 10?
So that's interesting. You mentioned that nobody is safe. Anything can happen. That's one of the nice things also about going back in time, like we have with High Republic, is we don't know that it's open, the open-ended, what characters' fates are open-ended, and that they actually, again, did the good thing with Game of Thrones, and that it's training us to let go of things that we maybe shouldn't have. It isn't simply for the sake of stakes, which was really well done. Just really using the potential of, first of all, using the potential of anything can happen to these characters to the fullest capacity, but also really pointing forward to 100 years and saying, okay, we know 100 years from now, Sith, or 120 something years from now, Sith Lord will rise from the Empire and wipe the Jedi out completely. Not completely, but you know what I mean. Execute Order 66. So really bringing all that in. I'm glad it wasn't just a lightsaber duel. If it was, I would not have been that interested. I'm not. Those are fun, but clearly, glad to be able to come on here tonight and give the Eye On Canon treatment of delving in, spending a lot of time talking about these intellectual, socio-political things. That's just how Joel and I work and our brains work, and so glad to share that and think on those level. I know you all do as well. It was great that this episode gave us those moments as well, because it was so action heavy. Again, not to knock the action, it was really well done, really well choreographed, especially with Dom was saying with Jackie. But I can't give it a 10. I'll have to bump it down to an 8.5. Episode 3 is the 10 for me. So, but that's the thing. I'm actually giving scores now. I'm not making fun of like the 3 Jogan fruits out of the 7 lightsabers, whatever.
Oh
right?
my goodness.
The show is so serious and so deep and rich that I actually have to give it that kind of serious consideration. So 8.5, like the whole series, but 8.5 out of 10 for me.
8.5 from Matthew. And Joel, what is your final thoughts and score out of 10?
Yeah, I'm really good. Even though the obvious answer is obvious, but sometimes obvious answers should just probably be obvious. And honestly, I think, and actually Leslie Hedden actually mentioned this somewhere in an interview where she was like, even if the obvious answer is obvious, execute it. Execute it flawlessly, and have a few shockers in there and well. So it's like, yeah, Chimera was the Sith Lord, but oh my God, Jackie, you're dead. So it's like that was to be like, okay, yeah, that's fine, whatever. The fight was great, and I am now kind of concerned in a good way about where May and Osha are going in the future. I'll give this a 9 out of 10 because I still think it's like, well, we still kind of have to have a kind of a not great episode to get here. That doesn't help a little bit. And it as I always said, it's that movie plot-itis. It's that 8-part movie syndrome, as I always say, where it's like, if this were a movie, like this would be the action sequence of that movie, and then we could quickly go to now back to the story stuff. So instead of having, now we have to wait a whole week to get back to the story stuff again, when they kind of just edited out the action sequence and put it as a 30-minute episode. So it has that problem. But overall, yeah, I'll give it a 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10 from Joel. For me, it is a 10 out of 10. I'll agree with Ben on that. I couldn't have seen the episode improved, and I thought it pushed the boundaries of what Star Wars is in certain ways. So that's the definition of a 10 for me. Incredible episode. Makes me super excited for the show's going. I do hope the back half of this show is like this episode, and like episode 3 that I agree also was amazing, Matthew, and a little bit less like episode 4, hopefully, but we can only hope. I believe this is an 8-episode series. Am I correct in that?
8 episodes.
Yeah, so that's what I thought. So we only have 3 left. So this is definitely, but again, that speculation is there are definitely thoughts and considerations about potentially there being more seasons of the show, and the story may very much not be complete. I very much would love to see this on go for a while, and be a tentpole for this era. I think that would be absolutely incredible. 10 out of 10 for me. We have a few scores on the chat I'd like to share. Our friend Din over at F105 Music gives it 11 out of 10, and Tyler Little also gives it 11 out of 10. So the chat is very high on their own supply of this episode, and that all thanks to the power of Manny. So thank you, chat, for that. Ben, do you want to pick like a few Ask the SWUs from Discord to read? I don't know if we'll have time to get through every single one of them tonight. There's no Matthew. Matthew's here.
I'm here.
Let me look.
No Matthew and no Joel. They're here.
Look, I'm just gonna rattle some off.
All right,
we'll get to a few of them, and I do apologize anyone that we don't get to. Okay, I promise we're gonna get to some of them, even the ones that may seem outdated at the time that we actually read them. We're gonna get to them. Martin Ingelston, our buddy, he says, have you seen that the robes of the Outpost Jedi are made different from the Jedi from Coruscant? And he's specifically talking about the ones on Olega. The robes that they wear are different from ones that like the Coruscant.
That's cool.
Things. Did anybody notice that?
Yes,
I did not.
That is 100% a High Republic thing.
Yeah. Going back to that episode, like I really liked the whole idea of just like these different temples, and the Jedi show up and they're like, boy, this must be a really big deal for Coruscant to show up, and blah 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 blah. Like that whole almost classist thing between Jedi is really interesting. But let me see. I'm sorry. I'm just scanning through these things. Let me get this is from Ingenious, who says, seeing Kelnaka do electrical work on the speeder, you think he could have had something to do with the exploding power generator.
Oh my.
This is from episode 3. So we don't, like, Kelnaka is noticeably absent from the latter half of that episode. And there also is this GIF that keeps going around from one of the trailers, and it's Kelnaka flying through the air with lightsaber in hand, attacking another Jedi. So there's something coming up soon in another episode. We're gonna get more flashbacks. That's just all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, maybe.
Absolutely fascinating.
We also have Vern in the trailer with the light whip. You haven't seen that yet.
Yep,
that is true. And it looks like she's on Kofar.
Yeah.
So, and I'll go ahead and spoil this one. Wolf Dog from, I'm guessing, last week says, is Chimere the dark side user with the red lightsaber at the end of the episode? I think so. I think so. Sorry, Wolf Dog, we got your question so late, but you got the answer. We all know now, so no big deal. And I'll get one. Blackthorn says comment for night. Holy forking shirt balls. And we'll end with Jesse's. He says, here's a question I may have asked in the past, but I'm not sure. Here it is. If you lived in the Star Wars universe, let's say during the events of the show for the timeline, what type of job would you try to work? Assuming the Jedi didn't identify you as a Force sensitive and take you for training, do you think you would still gravitate towards your current field or go for something new? So your job in the Star Wars universe.
Does the Star Wars galaxy have online nerd journalism? Like, what is the
There's the Holonet, right?
You're the Holonet writer.
What's the equivalent of pop culture in Star Wars? I guess there was
pop culture.
I guess there were soap operas that Han liked in Legends, but he used to watch.
Jedi romances. There's a whole genre of Jedi romances that then get, of course, played out in the Jedi romance between Elzar and.
I would probably be a smuggler, if I didn't have Force powers, because I don't think I'd want to be a bounty hunter. I'd want to avoid conflict as much as possible, and that would be smuggling would allow me to do that, but still make money.
When you have lots of conflict with smuggling, you got to get.
Not if I'm good at it. Y'all seeing the bad smugglers always get caught. Never seeing the good ones.
So here's the problem with that question. Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
No. I want to believe that I would have some badass thing to do, like being a smuggler or being a general on the front lines of the Star War. But actually, I'd probably just be, stuck on Batu slinging Bronto wraps or something
for sure.
The thing or something.
No, we'll be like Cyril Karn. We just like a little desk, just clicking the button.
Paper pusher.
I would definitely eat cereal, Star Wars cereal. That would be me.
Here's the problem with me with that qualification is that my day job, I do media and marketing for a Catholic TV channel. I'm literally working for the Jedi.
No, you're part of the Church of the Force.
No. The Jedi do employ non-Force users to maintain the temple.
Yeah, but as in, like I'm doing actual theology and commentary and communications, and so
I think you'd be a member of the Church of the Force. You'd be like Cheerio.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Sure.
Or Larson Tekka.
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
Yeah, I can imagine you being Larson Tekka.
If I wasn't Force sensitive, I'd be in with them because they're in cahoots with the Jedi.
Yeah,
I'd
still
be
part of the religion,
part of the library, part of the temple.
Yeah, almost more religious than the Jedi. In a sense.
Yeah, that's true. They choose.
Yeah,
they go for
it. Yeah. So I would say, that tracks really well. That tracks really well.
Sure.
Fantastic.
Figured it out.
Writing and all that.
Yeah. Any other ones you want to pull real quick? Maybe we do one more.
Yeah, let's do one more. Why not? I'll pick one from. Some of these are long. I'm sorry. Let's go with Blackthorn, who says, question for you all: what lessons from Star Wars have influenced choices you have made in your real lives? How has that influence changed as you've gotten older? That's super deep question. Super deep. Gosh. I think I have an answer, but does anyone else have an answer?
Okay, I have one that I've thought about a good amount, so I can get to it right away without thinking. One of the biggest things is how Star Wars is an archetypal family drama. Mm-hmm. So I think the concept of, generations and the interplay between generations is very important. And I think the concept of the relationship between Luke and Darth Vader is very much the archetype of, you don't necessarily want to completely follow in the footsteps of your ancestors. There might be some things that you want to change and do differently, but at the same time, you also want to recognize the humanity in them and recognize that there is a good side to everyone, even people who have, made mistakes and kind of fall into the dark side in your family's past and your lineage's past and your whole kind of culture's past. So I think that was one of the biggest early lessons, is kind of seeing that you can take power over your family history or your culture and history, and then you can change it and go down a different better path. And I recognized that very early on, and it's interesting because that then was kind of underscored again in the sequels with Rey and her separating from the Palpatine lineage and becoming an adopted Skywalker. So that was a big one for me. And then the other one as well is just, I love the emphasis on fear being the ultimate villain in Star Wars. Like, fear is the thing that starts you down the road to the dark side. That's the first problem. And I made a personal choice when I was a teenager, when making a decision, to never make that decision out of fear, but to make it out of something positive, like love, for example, which again is another lesson that's underscored very deeply in the prequels, for not fighting against you hate, but fighting for what you love, and the sequels, I mean, not the prequels. So yeah, many instances of that, but those are two that I think about the most often.
That's interesting. I feel like for me, Star Wars probably negatively affect me, because I just kept watching the Palpatine scenes, and now I'm just historically into looking up every horrible dictatorship in the world, like studying it like in depth and having like a knowledge. And I'm probably gonna get in trouble for this scene, but oh well. But like that's probably like.
Those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. You're not going to be repeating that history that you study so much.
Unless I plan to enter politics. I did think about once, but I got tired. Like,
The next Hux. We have the next Hux among us.
Matthew, what do you think?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think about Qui-Gon, I think about Obi-Wan, and they, again, what I'm thinking about, where I hope Soul's story goes. They have a really honest relationship with the institution. They're part of it in different ways. Obi-Wan even more so, right? He's a master on the council. He engages the reality, especially in episode 3, and this is what I admire about him so much. At least the way I read him, and this is hard. It's a chicken or egg. Am I reading into this? This is why I gravitate towards this. Am I seeing what I need to see? Probably yes, but also learning what I need to see. For Obi-Wan, it's engaging the impossibility of the situation, engaging the fact that decline is all around us. And this is also the lesson from Qui-Gon: is, okay, what do we do now? What do we do today? Okay, so Anakin's the father. Okay, am I gonna reject Anakin and Padme, or am I gonna do what I can to help? Am I gonna actually go to Mustafar? Hopefully, I mean, obviously he'd seen the recording by then, but do those last gasps of, do I try and bring him back to the light? And then, of course, when he can't, then it's only a Sith deals in absolutes. And only a Sith deals in absolutes. And so that's really struck with me that, I mean, and maybe I haven't experienced the depth of trauma that some people have, but I have religious trauma. I think everyone growing up in a kind of religious context does. Really, Obi-Wan's example really reminds me to embrace the complexity and the nuance of different people, different backgrounds, different reasons they respond in different ways. And at my worst, I forget that. At my best, I remember that. Qui-Gon especially embodies that. He's able to go and see Jar Jar, this guy who's so annoying and so, probably unhelpful and bumbling, but say maybe at the very least, whatever happens, he's worth my time and respect. And to have that, again, at the best, to say, this is, I am a Western Christian. I have 2 theology degrees. I'm, working for these institutions, seeking to, you need communications, not just put the best face on it, but seeking to bring out where it is at its best where it's trying to be, here's a theological term, faithful to who it's called to be, and honest about its past, honest about our collusion with residential schools, our complicity in that, our complicity in all the different violent genocides throughout the world and the oppression of the world, and say, okay, what do we do now? How do we be the best we can be? And that in part involves sitting with and sitting across from people who are different, who really see some things in very different ways, in ways that may completely contradict what I believe, or to say, is there something I can learn? Is there something I can grow from this person's experience? At my best, I'm not always there. I don't always do that perfectly, but I see in Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan especially, the line from Claudia Gray's Master and Apprentice really sticks with me. Qui-Gon, and Joe, this is something we're going to do a whole episode on one day. We've done multiple things, but Qui-Gon is asked, why do you follow the light when you know the Sith are going to win here and win, can acquire a consensus? So I follow the light because it's the light, not because I'm going to win a cosmic game, but because the order of the galaxy bends towards justice and truth. And so I'm going to be in that, or I'm going to fight against that, and I'm going to fight against myself. And so
the episode in question will be all about semantics, so whether that should have been light or just good.
Right. And so, but yeah, that's a whole conversation there about semantics, the word light, but the meaning behind it, I hope at my best, I do what I can. I know I don't always, I know the moments I don't, but I try. I try.
Yeah, good. For me, and it I don't know, it might sound like a cop out, but like genuinely, this is the first thing that comes to mind for me. It's just like, big themes of Star Wars is like selfishness versus selflessness. And I take that to heart. I'm just like, and like George obviously has talked about how like, these things are meant to be choosing the light every day, choosing to not be selfish. And that comes to mind like every day, big choices, small choices, whatever else. I'm being like, making the selfish choice with the selfless choice. And that's not to say that I don't not choose the selfish choice occasionally, willingly, because sometimes I'm like, I've had a bad day. I'm going to be selfish for 20 minutes and just do what I want to do and ignore this thing that I probably should be doing because I just feel like it. Okay, I'm going to go to the dark side. I don't requite things, especially when it's just like, 20 minutes playing Fortnite. How am I going to hurt doing that? But it is like that. I'm just like, you have to really think of it. That's how I think of it. And again, also big thing with Star Wars, patience. Like that's a thing that I struggle with. I don't have any patience. I don't think anybody really has any patience anymore, but like I truly don't have patience. I can get so impatient about the simplest, stupidest thing. And I have to, have Yoda or Obi-Wan in my head going like, patience, just why are you in a hurry? Stop, just, chill out for a second and live in the moment and not be so impatient. So I think there's a lot of lessons, a lot of things, most things I can relate to in my life to Star Wars anyway. So it's not hard, but those are the two big ones.
Amazing. That is a great question. Thank you for that. Who sent that question in again? That
was Glitzer, I believe.
Oh yeah, Glitzer. Yes, I know.
And hey, anybody that like is listening or watching, if you have your own answers to any of the questions, drop them in the comments. Or tweet at us.
That.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear that. All right. So that'll do it for this episode of the Star Wars Underworld Podcast. We want to thank everyone so much for listening on your favorite podcast apps, for watching on YouTube, for watching on social media. I appreciate all of you. Of course, we'll be back with another episode, same time, same place next week. That time is 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on Thursday nights, and that place is YouTube or your favorite social media site that has streaming video. Check it out. But YouTube is definitely the preferable way so that you can get all the full features of our live stream over there. So if you can find us on another site, please head over to YouTube. That helps us out, and it's the best experience to watch the show with. We want to once again thank Dom for sending in the video. Make sure you follow him at Dominic J25. And we want to thank Hannah. Make sure you follow her at the Raeside, RAE side. Ben, thank you so much for hosting.
Oh, it was a pleasure, as always. Okay, two things. I'm gonna do them. Right now. Okay, I didn't make as much progress this week, but here we go.
Oh, there we go.
Nice.
Don't drop it.
We got the turret in. We got part of the cab. We got a little bit of the roof. It's coming along. Okay. Get a progress update. Unfortunately, I will not be here next week, so you will not get any progress update then. But we'll see what happens. I will point you in the direction of my other podcast, IPC. We did 2 nights in a row of recording. I think it's collectively like 5 or 6 hours of audio content that's currently in the editing bay. It's coming to your ear holes very, very soon. Definitely go check that out. We talked about like immediately, like literally watched the Acolyte and jumped on our second show. So like fresh reactions to this new episode on that show. So definitely keep that in mind at IPC Podcast on the social medias.
Check out at IPC Podcast. Check out at Ben Hart with no E. Spell all those things out and no E in the heart.
Please stop yelling at me about the lightsaber choreography, okay? I get it. All of you love Duel of the Fates more than I do, okay? I made a mistake.
I watched that clip after you posted it, and I did think when I was watching that scene, this is really good choreography, and I watched the clip again, and I'm like, this holds up. I think, people are, they're being nostalgic here with Duel of the Fates. It's great, but this is great as well. They're both fantastic, and it's definitely valid to think that one might be slightly better than the other. That's my opinion on it.
Well, my video has now got like almost 2 million views on Twitter, and people are still yelling at me.
Oh my goodness! So yeah, check out all that craziness at Ben Hart with no E, and at the SWU, which will frequently retweet, or at Star Wars, which frequently is in Ben's comments. Occasionally. Joel,
see you.
Joel, thank you for hosting as well. Thank you for guesting.
You're welcome. You're glad to be here. I guess I'll tell you where you can find me. You can find me at JID2021. Again, JID2021 on Twitter. And of course, at the Eye On Canon Pod, EYEONCANON Pod on Twitter.
At Eye On Canon Pod.
Yes. And the Discord. Don't forget the Discord, the SWU Discord.
Check it out. Thank you, Joel. Matthew, thank you for hosting and guesting as well.
Yeah, this is great. This is a lot of fun. I think my favorite SWU experience so far. I don't know.
Amazing.
They've been good. This was really, really feeling it. Bringing the Eye On Canon treatment, taking some time to think about people. I know you guys do that lots, but that's primarily what we do in Eye On Canon Pod, which you can catch right here on the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel. You don't have to go anywhere. Right here, subscribe. 8:30 p.m. Mondays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. We have an interloper.
Hello.
Oh, why?
Mr. Joe.
No, there's 2 Dominics.
It's on the floor. Oh well. Hi. Thank you. Cheers. I can't hear anything, so. Thank you. You can say whatever you want. Would you like to talk about the Acolyte? Is it too late that I missed the show?
It's just 2 more hours. No big deal.
We've only been going for 1 minute, Dominic.
All right. Good night, everybody. I'll see you next week.
Bye, John. Guest cameo appearance. Yay!
As I was saying. That's the real goal. Eye On Canon Podcast.
We've finally seen them in the same place at the same time.
That's true.
Check out Eye On Canon Podcast.
Yeah, 8:30 p.m. Eastern,
personally.
5:30 p.m. Pacific. Mondays, and then Tractor Moon Comics Reviews. I want to shout that out. Chris Abbott and I break down all the comics that come out that day on Wednesdays, because Wednesdays are for comics and comics are for Wednesdays. And so talk about that. We also talk about any insider short story that comes out. And of course, we've been talking a bit about the Acolyte. And if you check out last night's episode, I believe, and Ben, this might disappoint you a little bit, the Star Wars Underworld Network debut of the Star Wars Oreos live on stream. Chris grabbed some, he had some, and he ate some on stream. So,
nice. I still haven't found them in stores, shockingly.
So yeah, check that out. And
all of mine are gone.
Yeah, at Eye On Canon Pod on Twitter, personal Twitter at NEUG485, personal Instagram MNEUG. Well, my main Instagram MNEUG1138. Also on Threads. A lot of soccer, a bit of Star Wars.
Wait, what about at Beaches Foodie?
So,
what is this?
So if you love food, because food is also very personal. Really taken to food Instagram. So this is my new food Instagram account at Beaches Foodie, beaches.foodie. I got a picture of a burger up there. I got a picture of a few burgers and some pizza and getting some fried chicken and some sushi. And I like to explore neat different things, especially here in the neighborhood I'm in, and also just around Toronto and wherever I am. So if you want your mouth to water on your Instagram feed, if you want good food photos, I try. At beaches.foodie is the place to be.
Awesome. Check it out. You can follow me at Seek3PO. We want to remind everybody to check out all the other shows on the Star Wars Underworld Network. We've already talked about Eye On Canon, Tractor Beam, and the Raeside. Make sure you also check out Tales from Beyond the Galaxy. Google that name, you'll find them. They're on Twitch, they're on YouTube, and they have social media accounts as well. Make sure you follow us on social media at the SWU. Definitely follow us over on the site formerly known as Twitter to compete with the many bots that are following us now and that enjoy our live streams. All 2,970 of them currently.
Only 980? What?
Well, there's 10 real people here. I hope. And make sure you check out the Star Wars Underworld Network Discord. We've got another cave night potentially coming up next week, so make sure you join before that so you can get all the latest details on that. The link is in the descriptions. Don't forget to subscribe if you are listening on a podcast app, and leave us a review. And don't forget to punch that subscribe button on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. All right, that is it. We are out of here. We'll be back next week for Dom and Hannah and Matthew and Ben and Joel. My name is Chris, and may the Force be with you. It's a wrap.
It's a wrap.